All elections are important. These upcoming elections are especially important. The old jaded mainstream politics that dominates our country has nothing to offer Ireland or Europe. Things have changed. New pro-human rights and pro-democracy smaller parties and truly independent candidates are standing in the European and in the local elections this time round. They each have their own individual take on politics, and I respect each of them for that. But they also have so much in common. Let's call them the new politics, because they are new. They offer a principles-based and a radical politics for our time, and for an EU with a new Commission, a new Parliament, and a new head of the ECB. The old politics will no longer do. In Dublin, Herman Kelly, who was established our exit, Freedom to Prosper, with vast experience of how the EU actually works and a clear understanding of a greater balance in recovering control over economic and political issues, is standing. Gemma O'Doherty, who will be well known to many of you, is standing. Eamon Murphy and Ben Gilroy, experienced and conviction-driven people, they're standing as well. There is the politics of not rolling over to pressure. The same is true for the Midlands Northwest, where Michael O'Dowd from Renua and Fidelma Healy-Eames are standing, both with huge amounts to offer. And in Ireland South, Professor Dolores Cahill from our exit, Theresa Heaney, who is pro-life in all domains, from hospitals to home ownership, and Diarmuid O'Flynn, who has campaigned long and hard against the debt burden imposed on Ireland by the EU, and he is, of course, absolutely right. They're all standing for election to Europe. These candidates have stature, principles, and a track record. They are miles removed from the old party politics of myths and control, of spin and PR. Now, many good people are campaigning for these old parties, and respect to them. It's not the people, it's the political model of control and intolerance of any dissonant voice that's toxic. In the local elections, Aontu, established by Peadar Tóibín earlier this year, and already a nationwide party, has strong, indeed outstanding candidates around the country. Men and women with families who wouldn't get next or near a nomination for the old parties. People who stand for social justice and for human rights, beginning with life, and for redressing the imbalances that scar our country. The mainstream parties have basically turned their backs on tens of thousands of voters, and incidentally, on their own foundational values. What do they have to offer a Europe caught in an existential crisis, except slogans? When you think about it, there's something very wrong with an economy that's booming for some, but where many couples can never think of affording their own home. Where rural Ireland is always bottom of the pile, and where there's open-ended funding for non-medical abortion, but vital health services are being cut. And of course, the debacles of the National Children's Hospital, of broadband, of vulture funds, the list goes on. Ideology has been pushed at the expense of getting things done and getting things right. There's something wrong with a politics that's repressive, where any politician not on message is shut up, and where the voice of so many voters, so many women, is simply discarded by ideology, and where Ireland's distinctive identity as a Christian nation is being displaced before our eyes. In Europe, the same kind of mainstream controlling parties peddle the politics of dependency in an EU that brought austerity to the most vulnerable countries, that's marked by inequalities between the periphery and the centre, and that's being rejected by voters across Europe, that has undermined what the European community of nations once stood for, community of nations. If you think about it, stability. Europe was built on Christian democracy. Christianity and democracy are both being crowded out, and those in control blame populists because, just like our political masters here at home, they don't listen. And there's the irony. There are indications of a new respect for Europe's Christian heritage. Look at the outpouring of prayer over Notre Dame. Even as our own politicians are repressing these same values here in Ireland. But they're prepared to use them as window dressing in elections to get the extra few votes. Our votes deserve more respect than that. Solidarity. Look at the extent of economic inequalities across Europe. Solidarity and a social Europe has been sacrificed to the politics of austerity, forced migration from the periphery to the centre, and a debt burden. And peace. Look at how rapidly the big countries like France are pushing for a European army while people continue to protest on the streets of Paris about the economy. The European community was largely about building peace, not another army. We need a different, more radical politics here in Ireland and in Europe. The old politics of Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael, Sinn Féin, in their new ideological clothes, won't deliver the radical policies that respects human rights, respects a sovereignty that's relational and not scarred by dependency, that respects social justice, local democracy, and unity by consent on our shared island. We need candidates to rebuild a Europe that is once again a community of nations rather than an empire. Many voters will still go along with the old parties that have left their foundational values well behind, but still use the old brand names. Many will opt for the secular politics that has colonised Irish politics, policies and institutions. That's fine, that's democracy. But many voters have been crowded out and they want something better than that. They want a new politics that's not embarrassed to serve our national interests at home and in Europe. These new parties and strong independents can open up the Irish political landscape to the fresh air of new ideas and values based on reason and faith, science and common sense. This website and the others like it will tell you where you can find these candidates in your own constituency. Have a good election.